Okay, if you've been in my lessons, you'll have seen this before. This is Little Man Computer, and it contains a really, really basic program for adding two numbers together. You input, that number is then stored in location 99, which is down here, where it says 99. You input a second number, that is then added to whatever number is in location 99, and those two numbers are then outputted. The sum of them is outputted, and the program finishes. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go into the nuts and bolts of how a processor works, but you should be able to see that there's this big piece of Little Man Computer here called RAM. Okay. Now, this is a fair representation of what RAM is like. You can think of it like a series of pigeonholes or a sort of a grid with lots of information in it. Now, that information can be saved, so written to a location. It can also be read from a location. Okay, it's random access, so we can sort of dip into it anywhere we need to and get information out. It's handy like that. Sounds brilliant. There are a couple of downsides though. In order to keep it running relatively quickly, random access memory, or RAM, tends to be quite a small amount of memory. Now, admittedly, you can probably get computers now without too much difficulty that have maybe 16, 32, maybe even 64 gigabytes of RAM, which sounds like a lot, but it's not when it's compared to the actual storage on the computer. That's the permanent storage. So it is always going to be less than that, relatively speaking. It's always going to be relatively small. And the advantage of that is it's relatively easy to find information, okay, because you're not searching through that much. Now, a good analogy here would be if you went to the library in Exeter. It's a nice enough library, but it's not a very large library. Okay, it shouldn't take you too long to find the information that you're looking for in there, or quite likely find that they don't have that information. Now, if you were to go to the British Library in London, that is a huge library. There's a lot more information in there, and even if you know exactly where you're going, it's going to take you longer to get there. The physical size of it slows things down, as does the volume of information that's there. So the size of RAM is quite important. It being small, relatively speaking, is quite important so we can find things quickly. There is also the little matter of it being volatile. Volatile memory does not store things permanently. Okay, when the computer turns off, that information is lost. Now, some computers have clever ways of dealing with this in case there's a power cut, but fundamentally, when the computer turns off, the power is withdrawn, that information is lost. Okay, so that's RAM in a nutshell. It is relatively small compared to the rest of the storage. It is volatile, which means that it requires electricity to be running through it in order for information to be stored there. And it is random access, which basically means that we can find information more or less anywhere we like within it. But more importantly, information can be read and written to it. Okay, so we can do both things at the same time, or one after the other. Hopefully that makes sense. Thank you very much.